I'd like to invite up on the stage Sebastian. Sebastian, fantastic business model. We had a good chat about it a bit earlier today, and he's going to talk about Habi. It's a tech-driven transformation of the real estate in Mexico. So thank you very much for coming all the way here. It's a bloody long way, so thank you.
Simon, thank you so much for the invitation. Really excited to be here. Just to mention some context, I think this is the first ever event in which Habi present as a prop tech or as a marketplace, because we have always think that we're more like a fintech business. And this day has been fantastic for me because I think I have learned a lot from years of experience of how to build this business from a completely different approach. And I think I will change a lot of the things that we do. But in generally, I would love to bring to this audience our approach, why we think working on the real estate space, working on the housing space, it's more about solving a financial problem than about helping the people get their home that they love. No? And we believe that what we're doing in Habi, it's unlocking the 6 trillion value assets of wealth, completely freezing in their homes. People in Latin America love to save in homes. Every dollar that anybody has extra, they put it on bricks, and that's the way that wealth has been built in Latam for years. And that wealth then ends up being completely freeze. And that's why we exist, and that's why we have a big mission to solve. No? Habi is a 5-year-old company. We started in Colombia 5 years ago. Now we operate in Mexico and Colombia. And I want to give you a quick snap of what we have done yet. No? First, we're a property data set and advanced analytic company. We have built the largest regional housing data set, and that requires huge manual efforts to truly collect this data set. We second have built the most used automatic valuation model, AVM. We think that's really important because if the houses are the place where you have all your savings, it's really important to understand how much you have in savings. No? And having an AVM, we believe, is a really important service for the community and the first step for every seller to make a decision. And lastly, in this really strong analytical and data approach, we're investors in the housing market, and 70% of the decisions that we do on the housing market are done automatically through our machine learning models and with some AI that we have built to make sure that we are making the right investment decisions when we end up buying or selling homes in the housing market. No? Second, we are, after having that really strong data set, we have been focusing on building a transactional market leader and a mortgage originator leader in the region. We right now do over 5% of the transactions in both in Mexico and Colombia. Of all the transactions of housing buys or sells, is 5% of those transactions. And we think that's really important, and we believe we can continue growing, solving that problem and becoming our market maker or the broker for that kind of transaction. We built a couple of years ago a mortgage business, and today we originate 10% of the mortgage of the country and growing in the same dimension in Mexico. And we do it through using the banks, but mostly serving the second-hand market in an efficient way with all the data approach that I just told you. And in 2024, we did over 800 million in GMV. 2025, we expect to overpass the 1 billion on GMV, and we will hit over 100 million on gross margin. Just all of this is just to explain you the level of scale that we have achieved in these 5 years. And lastly, and I think trying to look forward, we just achieved profitability, net income profitability in Q4 in Colombia, and we expect to hit full company profitability on 2025. And we have done this mostly focused on AI. We believe AI is the most powerful tool to reduce the cost to serve of a transaction, and we believe the cost to serve of a transaction is the biggest friction that any user has between selling and buying a new home. So if we are able to continue reducing the cost of serve, for sure we will become profitable, but most important, we can translate a lot of those benefits to the users and continue winning scale and transforming the market. No? So I really like the presentations about Thailand because I think are kind of the same problems that we see in Latin America. For context, the market is completely broken. It's really opaque. There's no MLS or any kind of data where you can understand what the value of any home. It's extremely informal. Brokers are informal, are fragmented. There's no, any broker house that has more than 1% of the transactions. So it's really hard to find an scalable business in the space. And lastly, it's really liquid. To sell a home takes between 12 to 18 months. During this time of the world with the high interest rate has gone more to the 18 months later. And waiting a year and a half to sell your home is extremely painful and truly makes really hard to sell the home that you have to buy the home that you dream. And there's where we start to originate, to create a lot of value. And lastly, as a financial service company, 85% of the homes don't have any loan to value over them. So all the wealth, all the savings that people have, they don't use it as collateral to get better credit conditions, and it's completely locked on this asset. No? Lastly, and I think similarly that some of the pre-speakers mentioned, this is a market in which fraud is really an important condition evaluated by consumers, and a lot of the reasons why people use Habi is because they want to transact with a trustable third party, and they are sure that they will not be robbed. What is the size of the market? You know a lot of this, but it's completely enormous. The value of the asset class of housing in Spanish-speaking Latam is $6 trillion, and we don't believe about the size of the market on what's the commission of brokers or what's the value of the transactions. We believe if we're able to create liquidity on the asset value of those $6 trillion, that's the space in which we want to operate and transact. And as I mentioned, 85% of the houses don't have any LTV. And the market with the growing middle class has a 45% housing deficit because has starting to become really hard to build houses in the bigger cities in Latam. No? Our liquidity and transactional capabilities support our position at the center of the residential ecosystem and set us apart from traditional marketplaces. So I have been speaking today with a lot of people, and what we believe about Latam, and I think it's the same in most of the countries of Southeast Asia, is that traditional classified or listing players are not good business. And it's really hard to build a scalable business and a scalable, profitable business just by charging for leads or for advertising to the brokers. Because brokers are extremely informal and are not a good pocket to try to build a scalable and important business. That's why we have focused ourselves more on the mortgage space, more on the transactional space, where we can find where to charge and then grow from there to build a massive marketplace. To go into detail, the foundation of our business, as I mentioned, is data. And that data that we have built powers our AI models. This graph is a bit complex, but we truly believe this is like the core of our company. So I will make the effort to try to explain it as simple as I can. 80% of our tech stack goes to organize, collect really fragmented data sets that are really hard to find. As Simon was mentioning before, sometimes you have to go and read some printed documents to try to get the data that you want, and organize all that data set, then clean that data set, normalize that data set so it can be used. Then we convert it and we use analytics or artificial intelligence to do fantastic pricing models, rate virtual agents, review and legal documentation automatically or generate listings automatically. And this, with all the engagement and partners that we have, end up nurturing our 4 more important capabilities or the 4 platforms that we're building as a company. The first one is market intelligence. We're building the Bloomberg of the housing market. The second one is our commerce platform, or the MLS, where brokers can interact and have tools to sell and buy homes in a really seamless way. The third one is the transactional service, or the clearinghouse of the market. And lastly, our liquidity platform, so we can offer immediate liquidity for sellers and buyers. And with all those capabilities, or that platforms, we, as Habi, end up serving all the actors in the ecosystems. We like to serve buyers, sellers, banks, brokers, investors, lawyers, policymakers, and insurance, because what we believe is that we're building this kind of infrastructure of data required to truly make an efficient housing market. No? In generally, with that effort, we have been able to collect over 70 million data points of specific homes with all the details that we require to make sure we can understand the price of a home, the time to sell of a home, and the legal situation of a home. We end up speaking in every month with 12% of all the sellers that are in the market, and we always survey them to understand what are the prices and how long it takes to transact. Our AVM model, it's used 1.6 times more than transactions in the market. So we believe that it's truly changed the way users make decisions about the value of their home and at what price to sell. And lastly, we have over 7,000 brokers that work constantly with us and that are providing a lot of information for transactions. And lastly, in terms of transactions, we see over 5.5 transactions that happen through our platform every month. And we process over 300,000 documents yearly that are helping us to train our AI models to automatize a lot of this process. In general, as I mentioned, this capacity to build automatic pricing, make automatic offers for homes, and automatically being able to invest in the housing market, it's what powers Habi and has let Habi build a scalable and profitable business. And as I mentioned, those 4 platforms that we believe are the key of our business are enable us to be the cornerstone of the residential ecosystem, reducing overall cost to do a transaction and the time of every transaction. We believe the biggest pain point in every housing transaction is how long it takes to do it and how expensive it's to do it. No? Just to repeat it, market intelligence, we believe the market house requires kind of a Bloomberg of the housing market for everybody to transact in a better place. We believe having a strong commerce platform where brokers can interact in a trustable space and do transactions, it's key for a market to work. We believe simplifying the transaction and building a clearinghouse so you don't have to run through the 40 documents, notaries, public registry. It's really important. And we believe connecting the user to the access of liquidity in every possible interaction is really important. From the seller, if they want to sell immediately, to the buyer, if they want to buy with a mortgage, or even if they want to get a home loan or the home that they already own. No? So on top of this understanding, we have built a scalable business. Our transactional business has grown 100% every year for the last 3 years, and now represents 700 million of GMV every year. The Habi Credit business that is at the end attached to some of these transactions, but that at its own has started to originate independent mortgage. 90% of our Habi Credit transactions are not connected to these transactions, are simply other credits that we're originating with our network of brokers. And as I mentioned, like this capacity to scale has been really important. And lastly, we have been growing to become a leading marketplace in the region. 3 years ago, we acquired propiedades.com in Mexico. This is the second. It used to be the 5th biggest listing in Mexico. Now it's number 2. And our approach with propiedades.com has been, if we're able to bring all the offline listings to online, 60% of listings are not online in Mexico, we will build a marketplace that has more inventory than anybody else. In the last 2 years, we have been able to grow massive exclusive listings. And when we mention exclusive listings, are listings that are not in any other portal, by focusing on that massive market that anybody else is serving. And with that kind of growth on the listings, we have been able to grow audience, to grow leads, and to grow contact rate. That has made, in terms of audience or unique users, to grow for the fourth place to the second place in less than a couple of years. And Propiedades.com ends up being our upper funnel to serve all our transactional capacities and to make sure that we can continue deliver a lot of home transaction and a lot of mortgages, no? And as I mentioned, lastly, we're really happy to achieve in Colombia profitability in Q4. For us, was a really important milestone because as a transactional business and as a market maker, because we sometimes buy and sell homes, it was really important to prove that we can become profitable in a really complex market. Just for context, transactions in Colombia fall 70% last year, and in Mexico falls 35% in the market, and we were able to grow and became profitable in a market that was at that kind of level of constraints. And what we believe is our AI investments will transform the business and will reduce the cost to serve, supercharging growth and increasing the service that we can give to the users. We believe that the most bigger pain point in the user is how expensive it is to sell a property and how long it takes to sell a property. And we believe that that's not a problem that a lot of companies are addressing. For context, selling a home in Latin America takes 18 months. You will pay a 3% broker fee, all the other costs attached are 3%, and the maintenance of that home for 18 months is 3%. With a certificate of deposit or a mortgage, the cost of those 18 months will be around 15%. The cost for a user to sell a home is 24%. That's the way we see it in Habi, as a financial constraint, and we have two value propositions for the sellers. You can sell immediately to us in 10 days, and you will sell it 18 times faster, thinking that it will take a full month to do the full transaction, and we'll charge you at 19% cost. This kind of service in Colombia represents today around 10% of the transactions of the whole market, because people prefer to sell their home at a 19% discount in a month than wait in 18 months and lose 24% of the value of that property. And secondly, we operate as brokers. And when we act as brokers, we are able to sell homes since we have built this network of brokers, since we understand the prices really well and we can connect with banks 3 times faster than the market in 6 months. And we will charge the user 5%. The financial time that the cost of that time will be 5% for the user, and it will cost them 10%. So in generally, the business and the technology that we're building in Habi, it's all around trying to reduce those constraints that make the market less efficient. If we can reduce the cost to serve, if we can reduce the time, we will massively impact the market. And what we have done, in the last 24 months, we have massively reduced cost of serve, and this is an example of the way we believe it, we have executed through the reduction of FTEs. To do a third of the transactions we were used to do, we require 1,800 people in the company to operate the appraisals, to operate the transactions, to have a commercial sellers that serve the sellers and a commercial network to serve the brokers to do transactions. And we have been able in the last 24 months to move from 1,800 people to 1,000 people. And just in last year, we moved from 1,500 people to 1,000 people. In the same period in which we were able to grow 30%. We believe that's really important because these are all our costs that limit us to reduce the cost of serve and to translate more value to the user. And we will give you 2 examples that we're extremely excited about and of what we have been building. The first one is, we name it Gabi, and it's our agent that serves through WhatsApp everyone that wants to sell a home to Habi or that want to be represented as a broker. Today, Gabi have taken 50% of all the interactions between a Habi agent and the seller, and is today serving 85% of the users in one piece of the funnel. At the end, the more complex conversation are served by a seller and a commercial agent that are us that decide to help them to sell their property. But in the rest of the process, Gabi is taking all the complexity and serving all the process. We have been able with Gabi to, one, increase productivity massively, since this kind of service is better for the user and reduce the cost to serve of us. Second, increase conversion because it's more constant and predictable, and we have been able to increase conversion with this agent. And three, increase NPS. Every time we deploy a new dimension of Gabi and takes another piece of the commercial piece, it's because it has better conversion and better NPS, and that approach has let us reduce the commercial team in 65% while growing 30%. And the second one is on the other side, when we sell properties, when we serve buyers. And what we have found in Latin America is that for users, it's really, we can get to a lot of users, but it's really hard to find who are really close to the transaction. So profiling those leads and understanding who have credit, who is able to buy, who has the required resources to do the transaction, it's usually something that our internal network of teams and the brokers require a long time to serve. We have automatized all that profiling process, increasing productivity and reducing the team in almost 200 people. I'm a bit late, so I'm going to skip this, but in generally with propiedades.com, we have accelerated massively the time for anybody to publish a property, since for us it's so important to get all the listings that are offline, to offer a free solution that anybody can use through a natural channel as WhatsApp, and they can publish a property in less than a minute. It's really important, and that's the reason why we have been able to grow in such an important scale the quantity of properties that we are just listed through us. And lastly, we build a small solution to match the address that the user puts with the real address and location in the market. The service and information that you can find about address is really bad in Mexico, and we have been able to, through ChatGPT, connect a lot of data sources and serve the user in a way in which we can understand the address in a really short time. For us in AI, speed matters. We believe this market will be completely disrupted through AI, and we focus internally on reducing the time to launch of every of these agents. At the beginning, it took us 8 months. Now it's taking us 6 weeks. Of course, quality is another matter that it's important, but we are today able to deliver in 6 weeks the same quality of models that we were able a year ago to do it in 8 months. And what we envision, or what we're seeing in the next 18 months, we believe we can reduce the cost to do a transaction for a seller to sell the home onto the buyer, or internal cost in a 50% basis. If we achieve profitability by reducing the last piece that I told you, that it was less than 20%, if we can continue reduce the cost to serve in a 50% basis, we can translate a lot of this value to the consumer, and we can continue grow and improve the customer experience. We offer service along all the lines of products, and we believe that these improvements will generate the value. But lastly, and just to close, I'm sorry for the delay. In generally, our thesis is, if we're able to reduce 50% the cost of the transaction, 45% the cost of the transaction, and 50% the time of a transaction to happen, that will reduce the cost to serve by almost half. And with that, we can translate that to better customer experience and higher growth and profitability that will imply lower capital constraint and stronger ROI. And we can continue to scale our service to millions and not just serve 5–10% of the market, but 20–40% of the market through our solutions. Thank you.
Sebastian, thanks for that. Some questions, and then I've got an interesting observation, but I like what you're doing. So are the banks, insurers, policymakers, etc., utilizing your data?
Yes. So we have partnered with most of the banks, and they share with us some information, and we share with them some information. Secondly, we have become a really important mortgage broker for them. And one of the most important value that we're providing to them is that we take control of all the process, do the evaluation, do the legal check with our automatic solutions, and that's why we have been able to grow so significantly.
Okay. And then can you go into the rationale behind buying Propiedades? Why'd you do it?
So, as I mentioned at the beginning, we believe we want to build a marketplace. We start by the transaction, and we start by solving the more complex and painful pieces of the transaction, that is the time that takes and the cost that is to do a transaction. But we believe if we start to do these transactions in a really seamless way and with really low cost to serve, then we can scale and become a transactional marketplace that is at the end what we dream. And Propiedades.com had a really important audience, it was a really trustable portal in Mexico, and the connection between our transactional capacities by the level of traffic audience was a really important way to reduce our cost of acquisition and to create in some way a transactional marketplace.
Okay. Fascinating. And what I find super interesting is you prepare your presentation on the other side of the world. You've got Paul doing his presentation in this part of the world, and there are so many similarities between them. There are similarities in the focus on internal efficiency, driving down costs, being faster in what you do, etc. They've got a front-end portal, you've got a front-end portal. So it's interesting that even in isolation, these businesses actually tend towards a common structure, and the use of AI at the moment is all about driving efficiency. So I found that as a connection between the two super interesting. So you guys should have a beer, right, and share notes, because I'm sure you got a lot you can learn from each other in this process. But Sebastian, thank you very much. Great stuff. And thank you for coming all the way from Mexico City.